Think peppers are finicky annuals that need babying through every season? Think again. There's one pepper that has survived in the brutal Sonoran Desert for thousands of years, producing fiery fruits through scorching heat, months without rain, and conditions that would kill your garden variety jalapeno in days. This wild warrior is the Chiltepin pepper, and if you're not growing it in zones 8 through 11, you're missing out on the most resilient, longest-lived, and flavor-packed pepper on the planet. This isn't just another hot pepper for your collection. This is the original pepper that all domesticated chilies descended from, a perennial powerhouse that can produce harvests for 20 years or more from a single plant. After years of studying wild food systems and desert-adapted crops, I've discovered that Chiltepin isn't just surviving in harsh conditions. It's thriving in ways that put every greenhouse-grown pepper to shame. Today, we're diving deep into why this native North American pepper deserves a permanent place in your garden, how its survival strategies make it virtually indestructible, and the shocking truth about why this pepper's genetics holds secrets that could revolutionize how we think about food production. Stick around, because the cultivation method I share will help you establish a pepper plant that your grandchildren might still be harvesting from, and the processing techniques will preserve this explosive flavor for years. Walk through the Sonoran Desert borderlands between Arizona and Mexico, and you'll find something extraordinary growing in the shade of mesquite and ironwood trees. Small shrubs barely 3 feet tall, covered in tiny round peppers no bigger than a pea, producing some of the most intense heat and complex flavor found in any chili on Earth. These are Chiltepin peppers, known as Chiltepin, chili tepin, or bird pepper, and they've been growing in this exact location for at least 10,000 years. The indigenous peoples of this region, including the Tohono O'odham, have harvested these wild peppers since time immemorial, considering them a gift from the desert itself. The Chiltepin holds a unique position in botanical history as the only wild chili native to the United States. This is Capsicum annuum var. Glabriosculum, the direct ancestor of virtually every bell pepper, jalapeno, and cayenne you've ever eaten. Every domesticated pepper variety traces its lineage back to wild chilies like Chiltepin. Yet while humans spent centuries breeding peppers for larger size, milder heat, and dependence on cultivation, the Chiltepin remained unchanged, perfectly adapted to survive without any human intervention whatsoever. This wild genetics translates directly into benefits for gardeners who choose to cultivate it. Here's what makes Chiltepin absolutely revolutionary for anyone growing food in challenging climates. This plant produces thousands of tiny peppers per season, with mature plants yielding anywhere from 2 to 10 pounds of fresh chilies annually. While each individual pepper weighs only a fraction of a gram, the sheer quantity compensates. A single Chiltepin plant in its prime can produce over 5,000 individual peppers in a season. The heat level ranges from 30,000 to 100,000 Scoville units, comparable to cayenne or Thai chile, but the flavor profile is entirely unique. There's an immediate sharp heat that hits your palate, followed by complex fruity and smoky notes that most cultivated peppers lack entirely. The plant's perennial nature transforms the economics of pepper growing completely. Instead of starting seeds every spring, nursing seedlings through transplant shock, and hoping for a good harvest before frost, you plant Chiltepin once and harvest for decades. Documented specimens in ideal conditions have lived and produced for over 30 years. Even in less than perfect situations, expect a productive lifespan of 10 to 15 years, minimum. Calculate the return on investment from a single plant producing 5 to 10 pounds of premium chilies annually for 15 years, and you're looking at over 100 pounds of peppers from one initial planting. No annual pepper can match that productivity. The drought tolerance of Chiltepin makes it perfect for water-conscious gardeners and absolutely essential for anyone facing water restrictions or unreliable rainfall. In its native habitat, the Sonoran Desert receives only 7 to 12 inches of annual rainfall, much of it concentrated in brief, intense storms. The Chiltepin survives by developing an extensive root system that mines deep soil moisture and by going semi-dormant during the driest periods. The plant drops many of its leaves during extreme drought, reducing water loss while keeping its core structure alive and ready to burst back into growth when moisture returns. This adaptation means you can establish Chiltepin and essentially ignore it during dry periods without killing the plant. The plant evolved in a challenging environment that shaped every aspect of its survival strategy. Growing beneath nurse trees like mesquite and palo verde, Chiltepin developed tolerance for partial shade that most peppers lack. While the plant produces maximum yields in full sun, it performs perfectly well with 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight, especially afternoon shade in extremely hot climates. This shade tolerance allows you to place Chiltepin in locations where full sun crops struggle, effectively expanding your productive growing space. Temperature tolerance is another superpower of this remarkable pepper. Chiltepin handles extreme heat that would cause most pepper varieties to drop flowers and abort fruit development. Desert temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit during summer, yet Chiltepin keeps producing. The plant's small leaves reduce surface area for water loss, and its natural growth habit keeps fruit clusters shaded by foliage. On the cold-tolerant side, established plants survive light frosts and can re-sprout from roots after freezes that kill top growth. In Zone 9 and warmer, Chiltepin remains evergreen and produces year-round. In Zone 8, expect winter dormancy with reliable spring regrowth. The pest resistance of Chiltepin stands out dramatically compared to cultivated pepper varieties. Wild genetics bring robust immune systems that domestication often breeds out. Capsaicin levels in the leaves and stems deter many insects that plague bell peppers and jalapenos. While you might occasionally spot aphids or whiteflies on Chiltepin, serious infestations are rare and typically self-correct as predatory insects arrive. The plant's natural vigor simply outgrows minor pest damage. Diseases that devastate annual pepper crops, bacterial spot, phytophthora blight, tobacco mosaic virus, rarely affect Chiltepin significantly. The genetic diversity within wild populations provides resistance mechanisms that monoculture breeding eliminates. Understanding how to source and propagate Chiltepin is crucial because this isn't a plant you'll find at typical garden centers. Specialized native plant nurseries in the Southwest sometimes carry Chiltepin, particularly those focusing on ethnobotanical or desert-adapted species. Online seed suppliers specializing in rare and wild chilies offer Chiltepin seeds, though germination can be tricky without proper technique. The most reliable method for acquiring plants is connecting with other growers who already have established Chiltepin. These plants produce abundant seed, and enthusiasts often share readily. Seeds require specific conditions for reliable germination because Chiltepin evolved to germinate in response to desert rainfall patterns. Scarification helps break seed dormancy. Soak seeds overnight in warm water, then plant in well-draining seed-starting mix. Keep the medium consistently moist but never waterlogged, maintaining temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees. Germination is erratic, occurring anywhere from 10 days to 6 weeks after planting. Don't give up on seeds that seem slow to germinate because wild genetics mean variable dormancy periods. Starting extra seeds compensates for lower germination rates compared to domesticated varieties. Young seedlings grow slowly compared to hybrid peppers, which frustrates gardeners accustomed to rapid annual growth. This slow start is the plant investing energy in root development rather than top growth. Patience during this phase pays enormous dividends later. Keep seedlings in pots until they reach 6 to 8 inches tall and have developed strong root systems. This might take 3 to 4 months from germination. The wait is worth it because well-established seedlings transplant much more successfully than rushed younger plants. Choosing the right planting location sets up your Chiltepin for decades of productivity. The plant needs excellent drainage above all else. Soggy roots kill Chiltepin faster than anything else. If your soil is heavy clay, build raised beds or mounds at least 12 inches high filled with amended soil. Sandy or loamy soils work perfectly without modification. The ideal pH ranges from 6.0 to 7.5, though Chiltepin tolerates slightly alkaline conditions common in desert soils. Incorporate compost or aged manure into the planting area, not for fertility, but to improve soil structure and water retention. Morning sun with afternoon shade creates ideal conditions in hot climates, mimicking the plant's natural habitat under nurse trees. In cooler regions of the growing range, full sun maximizes production and helps fruit ripen completely. The plant grows naturally as a small shrub 2 to 4 feet tall and equally wide, so allow adequate spacing. Plant Chiltepin at least 3 feet from other plants to accommodate mature size and ensure good air circulation. The location becomes permanent, so choose carefully. Moving established Chiltepin stresses the plant and often proves fatal once the root system fully develops. Transplanting requires care to avoid disturbing roots more than necessary. Dig a hole twice as wide as the root ball, but no deeper. You want the plant at the same soil level it grew in its container. Settle the plant into the hole, backfill with native soil, and water thoroughly to eliminate air pockets. Create a shallow basin around the plant to capture water during the establishment phase. Mulch around the plant with 2 to 3 inches of organic material, keeping mulch a few inches away from the stem to prevent rot. This mulch conserves moisture, moderates soil temperature, and suppresses weeds while breaking down slowly to improve soil. The establishment period for newly transplanted Chiltepin lasts about 3 months and requires more attention than the plant will ever need again. Water regularly to keep soil evenly moist but not saturated. Once or twice weekly deep watering works better than frequent shallow watering because it encourages deep root development. Monitor the plant for wilting, which indicates either too much or too little water depending on soil moisture. Adjust your watering schedule based on the plant's signals. After 3 months, gradually reduce watering frequency, training the plant to survive on less water as it would in nature. Fertilization should be minimal because excessive nutrients, especially nitrogen, promote leafy growth at the expense of fruit production. Wild plants evolved to thrive in nutrient-poor desert soils, and cultivated Chiltepin maintains those preferences. A light application of compost around the plant in early spring provides all the nutrition most plants need. If you feel compelled to fertilize, use a low nitrogen formula designed for flowering plants, applying at half the recommended strength. Over-fertilization causes lush growth with few peppers and can actually reduce the pungency of fruit that does develop. The plant requires virtually no pruning in most situations, developing its natural shrub shape without intervention. However, strategic pruning can improve productivity and plant health. Remove dead or damaged branches anytime they appear. Thinning interior branches improves air circulation and light penetration, promoting better flowering and fruit development. Some growers prune Chiltepin lightly after the main harvest period, removing about 1/3 of the oldest growth to stimulate fresh, productive branches. This renewal pruning is optional, but can extend the plant's productive life. Flowering begins when temperatures warm in spring and continues through summer and into fall in warm climates. The small white flowers appear at branch nodes, usually in pairs, but sometimes singly. Each flower has the potential to become a pepper, though not all flowers set fruit. Hot, dry winds, Extreme temperatures above 115 degrees as drought stress during flowering can cause blossom drop. Generally, though, Chiltepin sets fruit more reliably than domesticated varieties because its wild genetics are calibrated for challenging conditions. Fruit development follows a predictable pattern worth understanding for harvest timing. The tiny round peppers start green, gradually ripening to brilliant red over several weeks. Green Chiltepin peppers are edible and quite hot, but lack the full complex flavor profile of ripe fruit. As peppers mature to red, heat levels intensify, and the characteristic fruity, smoky flavor develops fully. Peppers don't all ripen simultaneously, which actually benefits home growers by extending the harvest season. You'll have both green and red peppers on the plant for months. Harvesting Chiltepin requires different thinking than picking annual peppers. Instead of stripping the plant bare in 1 or 2 harvests, you pick continuously as peppers ripen. The tiny size means individual picking is tedious, but productive plants produce such abundance that you quickly gather significant quantities. Some traditional harvesters spread a sheet under the plant and shake branches to drop ripe peppers, though this wastes unripe fruit still developing. Hand picking ensures you take only fully ripe peppers and avoids damaging the plant. The intense heat of Chiltepin demands respect during harvest. Capsaicin oils on your hands transfer easily to eyes, nose, and sensitive skin, causing painful burning. Wear gloves while picking or thoroughly wash hands with soap and oil before touching your face. Despite the small size, these peppers pack serious heat. A single Chiltepin contains enough capsaicin to flavor an entire pot of beans or salsa. The heat is immediate and sharp, but dissipates relatively quickly compared to super hot varieties that linger for 30 minutes or more. Processing and preserving Chiltepin is essential because even the most productive harvest season eventually ends, and you'll want these flavors year-round. Drying is the traditional method and perfectly suited to these small peppers. String fresh red peppers on thread, creating ristras that dry in a warm location with good air circulation. Alternatively, spread peppers in a single layer on screens or baking sheets. In hot, dry climates, sun drying works perfectly. In humid areas, use a dehydrator at 115 to 125 degrees until peppers are completely brittle. Properly dried Chiltepin stores for years in airtight containers, actually developing more complex flavor over time as compounds mellow and blend. Grinding dried Chiltepin into powder creates an incredibly versatile seasoning. Use a spice grinder or molcajete to pulverize dried peppers into fine powder. This Chiltepin powder adds instant heat and flavor to any dish. A pinch transforms scrambled eggs, soups, marinades, or chocolate desserts. The powder stores even longer than whole, dried peppers and allows precise heat control in cooking. Start conservatively because Chiltepin powder is potent. You can always add more heat, but you can't remove it. Freezing fresh Chiltepin preserves the bright, fresh flavor that drying moderates. Simply wash peppers, dry thoroughly, and freeze whole in Ziploc bags or vacuum-sealed packages. The small size means they freeze and thaw quickly. Frozen Chiltepin works perfectly in cooked dishes, though the texture becomes soft after thawing. This makes frozen peppers ideal for salsas, sauces, and stews where texture isn't critical. Frozen Chiltepin maintains quality for 12 months or longer. Creating Chiltepin vinegar or oil infusions captures the heat and flavor in forms that last indefinitely and offer unique culinary applications. Pack fresh or dried Chiltepin into clean bottles, cover completely with white vinegar or neutral oil like grapeseed, and let steep for 2 to 4 weeks. The resulting infusion carries Chiltepin's heat and flavor, perfect for adding drops to finished dishes or using in vinaigrettes and marinades. The vinegar or oil can be topped off repeatedly as you use it, with the peppers continuing to infuse for months. The culinary applications for chiltepin span global cuisines while holding special importance in southwestern and Mexican cooking. In Sonoran cuisine, chiltepin is the default table condiment, appearing in small bowls at every meal. Diners add individual peppers to soups, beans, and stews, controlling heat to personal preference. The complex flavor complements beef, pork, and game meats exceptionally well. Traditional recipes like chiltepin salsa combine the fresh peppers with lime juice, salt, and sometimes tomatoes or tomatillos, creating a bright, sharp condiment that awakens every dish it touches. The flavor profile of chiltepin differs markedly from cultivated hot peppers in ways that justify growing it despite the small fruit size. The immediate sharp heat grabs attention, but the quick dissipation prevents the overwhelming mouth burn of super hot varieties. Behind the heat comes distinctive fruitiness with hints of smokiness and an almost citrus-like brightness. This complexity comes from the diverse volatile compounds that wild genetics preserve, but domestication often eliminates in favor of milder, more commercially acceptable flavors. Medicinally, chiltepin carries the same capsaicin-based benefits as other hot peppers, but concentrated in tiny packages. Capsaicin acts as a powerful anti-inflammatory, supports cardiovascular health, boosts metabolism, and provides pain relief when applied topically. Indigenous peoples used chiltepin for treating digestive issues, stimulating circulation, and as a topical treatment for arthritis and muscle pain. Modern research validates many traditional uses, confirming that regular consumption of hot peppers, including chiltepin, correlates with reduced inflammation and improved metabolic health. The ecological role of chiltepin reveals fascinating relationships between plants and animals that shaped this pepper's evolution. Birds, particularly curve-billed thrashers and other desert species, consume chiltepin fruit without feeling the heat because avian pain receptors don't respond to capsaicin. The birds digest the fruit pulp and distribute seeds throughout the desert in their droppings, often depositing them beneath nurse trees where germination conditions are ideal. This bird-mediated dispersal explains why chiltepin is called bird pepper and why the plant evolved to produce small attractive fruits that birds favor. Mammals, including humans, feel the heat and tend to avoid eating wild chiltepin in quantity, though we've learned to appreciate and cultivate these fiery fruits. Climate change and habitat loss threaten wild chiltepin populations in their native range. Development, overgrazing, and changing rainfall patterns destroy the nurse trees that chiltepin depends on for germination sites. Commercial harvesting of wild peppers while providing income for rural communities can deplete populations when done unsustainably. Growing chiltepin in home gardens contributes to conservation by maintaining genetic diversity outside wild populations. Every garden plant represents a genetic reservoir that could prove valuable if wild populations face crisis. The experience of growing chiltepin connects you to 10,000 years of human-plant relationships in the Sonoran Desert. The Tohono O'odham consider this pepper so culturally important that chiltepin harvesting traditions pass through generations. Families have traditional gathering areas they return to year after year, harvesting sustainably to ensure future crops. By growing this plant, you're preserving not just genetics, but cultural knowledge that predates agriculture itself. This is food that sustained peoples through droughts, migrations, and upheavals spanning millennia. Start your chiltepin journey with realistic expectations and a long-term perspective. This isn't a plant that delivers instant gratification. The first year focuses on establishment, with modest harvests, even from plants that flower. The second and third years bring increasing productivity as the plant matures. By year 4 or 5, a well-established chiltepin reaches peak production, pumping out thousands of peppers annually. This long view is unfamiliar to gardeners raised on annual vegetables, but the payoff is a permanent addition to your garden that provides harvests year after year without replanting. The investment required for Chiltepin is minimal compared to the returns. A few dollars for seeds or perhaps $20 for a started plant from a specialty nursery represents the total cash outlay. No special equipment is needed, no expensive fertilizers or treatments. The plant asks only for decent drainage and occasional water during establishment, then largely takes care of itself. This makes Chiltepin accessible to any gardener in appropriate climates, regardless of budget. The future of perennial food crops like Chiltepin looks increasingly bright as gardeners wake up to the advantages of plants that produce year after year without annual replanting. Conventional gardening wisdom pushes annuals because seed companies profit from selling new seeds every season. Perennials threaten that business model by reducing dependence on purchased inputs. For home gardeners, though, perennials make perfect sense. Less work, less water, less expense, more harvest. Chiltepin exemplifies these advantages while delivering unique flavors impossible to replicate with domesticated varieties. Give Chiltepin a permanent place in your garden, and you'll never regret it. This ancient wild pepper brings resilience, productivity, and explosive flavor that transforms how you think about growing food in challenging conditions. While neighbors are babying their temperamental annual pepper plants, your Chiltepin thrives on neglect, producing abundantly through drought, heat, and conditions that would devastate any greenhouse variety. That's the power of wild genetics meeting 10,000 years of desert adaptation, and it's ready to work for you today.